Corporate social responsibility. So what is the definition of corporate social responsibility? As the best definition of corporate social responsibility, Bowen's phrase is being quoted because this is very good way of defining CSR. According to Howard Bowen, uh, CSR is the obligations of business to pursue those policies, to make those decisions, or to follow those lines of action which are desirable in terms of the objectives and values of the society. So, in a word, CSR is related with desirable policies of a corporation in terms of the objectives and values of the society. And it is the corporate obligations. And for your reference, Howard Bowen, he was the pioneer in the CSR research, and he was an American economist and college president. So before we proceed with the concept of corporate social responsibility, we need to know about the word stakeholder. And stakeholder is anyone who has a stake or interest. Stake means interest. In, and in this interest is included a financial interest. So stakeholder is anyone who has a stake in the firm. Okay, and it includes shareholders, employees, the community, the suppliers, and the customers, as well as creditors, the government, and competitors. There are some argument about the inclusion of competitors in the stakeholder, but that does not seem to be so grave difference. Okay? So Edward Friedman is called the father of stakeholder theory because he was the first one to put forward the stakeholder theory in the 1980s, and for the next 30 years, Freeman and his friends have developed and defined the concept of stakeholder. So stakeholder means uh, stakeholder theory means that instead of managing the firm in the best interest of shareholders only, managers should seek to balance the interests of all stakeholders. So, managing firms in the interest of all stakeholders is better for the firm strategically than maximizing shareholder wealth. This may be the development from the shareholder theory, and they came to accept the stakeholders as the kind of corporate environment. Okay, so from shareholder view, there was a development into stakeholder view in the industrial world, and as we can see in this picture or a map, the corporation inside of a corporation, the shareholder view is totally justifiable. That means it shows the way between the shareholder and the managers of a corporation. And in this agency relationship, shareholder view holds rightly for all the participants. And the managers have a fiduciary duty about their shareholders. Okay, and that's the starting point. But we cannot say this is the only obligations of a corporation or the manager. So a corporation is responsible for the welfare of the society as a corporate citizen, and they have to take good care of the environment uh, in which the corporations is working. So these entities that affects corporations and that is affected by the corporations are called the stakeholders, and there are community, media, outside labor, consumer, supplier, civil society, and government. Okay, they should take care of all these stakeholders for the success of their corporate objectives. Okay, that's what the stakeholder view says. So, so we have to accept the diverse demands of the uh, stakeholders. Stakeholders have different interests in the business. Their their interest is different from the shareholders to some extent. So let's just look at uh, each of the stakeholders one by one. So there are suppliers outside of the corporation. There are suppliers. So they are interested in continued profitable trade with the business. So they demand financial stability. Their main uh, interest lies in in one question: can the business pay its bills? So these are the demands of the suppliers and their interest. And there are also banks and other financial providers. So they are asking, can the business repay amounts loaned or invested? So they are showing strong concern about the profitability and cash flows of the business, and at the same time, growth in profits and value of the business. Okay, so these are the concerns of the banks and other financial intermediaries about the corporation. And in case of government, uh, they have to collect taxes. Okay, so they are interested in the correct collection and payment of taxes, such as value-added tax. And at the same time, they are helping the business to grow. And because the growth of a business is very important for the society to create jobs, okay, for the youngsters, they are very much interested in the growth of a business. And they also, through legislation, they make a compliance rule, okay, of the business. So they want the business run in the right way for the society. And society as a whole, they have interest in the success of the business, particularly creating and retaining jobs. Job is very important, and the corporation is the most important source of jobs in society. And at the same time, society demands the corporation to comply with local laws and regulations. For example, noise pollution, or etc. So these are the demands from the stakeholders. Okay, and we shareholders and owners are also included in the stakeholder in the big bracket. Okay, so shareholders is very natural that they are interested in return on investment and profits and dividends. Okay, as the owner of the business, and they also have the proper interest in success and growth of the business and proper running of the business. Okay, so shareholders also share some of the interest with the other stakeholders, and there are managers and employees. So these people are hired, okay, for rewards, including basic pay and other financial incentives. Okay, and at the same time, they demand job security and good working conditions from the corporation. And they also demand promotion opportunities with job satisfaction and status and motivation and roles and responsibilities. They like to interact with the corporation in a humane way, and they also want some kind of financial rewards. Okay, and the customers, they are spending money for the company product, and they demand value for their money. Okay, so their main concern is product quality and customer service. So all these demands from the stakeholders uh, act as a very important factor in the success of a corporation. Okay, so let's look again into this stakeholder map. Okay, so corporate social responsibility demands us to take care of these stakeholders. Okay, as a corporate citizen, for example, about the creditor, as we already mentioned, uh, prompt payment, okay, acceptable profit margin is very important for the creditors. So they demand these things, the corporation. And about the community, they demand employment and environment protection. And about the consumers, they want the corporation fair exchange of their money and the product, and they also demand safe and reliable products from the corporation. And about the outside labor, they want fair treatment from the corporation. And from the standpoint of a supplier, they also need prompt payment, okay? And acceptable profit margin should be uh, secured from the corporation in the transaction, okay? And about the creditor, they are always suffering from the danger of, or risk of default of a corporation. So misleading financial statements are very dangerous thing for the creditors. So they want the transparent financial statement. And about the government, as as a stakeholder of a corporation, they demand tax and they demand some compliance with the regulations or laws. So in the past, the corporation is just safe within inside of the corporation unless they commit some crimes outside of outside in the society. But these days, they have take care of all these factors of society, and they should give due respect and concern about these stakeholders. That's stakeholder theory holds. Then, what's the relationship between CSR and shareholder theory? So let's get back to our shareholder theory. And the pioneer was the Milton Friedman, the very famous economist. And uh, so uh, Friedman in 1970 objects to CSR. And from his point of view, managers should be maximizing shareholder wealth instead. But stakeholder theory is thought to be more accommodating. It's bigger concept of social activity by firms. They have to maintain some friendly relationship with the society as a whole, since it permits firms to do things other than increase shareholder wealth. Okay. because corporation is too big, to be satisfied within their corporation, because they have to uh, interact with the environment and the. Oh, sorry for the noise. My wife came into my room and she was trying to mocking my English pronunciation. So there was some kind of noise, but it's already 15 minutes past, and to try again is, I think, very uh, difficult for me. Okay, so let me just proceed. Okay, so Friedman is the shareholder theory proponent, and because a corporation is also a part of society, and as a corporate citizen, they have to take care of all the environment, okay, environmental factors, and CSR is generally not in the interest of shareholders, and often so what they say, or what they maintain about the CSR is very negative, like following: CSR is generally not in the interest of shareholders, and often a manifestation of managerial agency problems inside the firm. We have learned the agency problems. Okay, so agents agents are supposed to do the best for the maximization of the principal welfare. But if these managers are giving concerns outside of their maximization uh, purpose, okay, of their principles, then it's a kind of manifestation of managerial agents problems. Okay, so CSR is not good, they are saying, and so they say that socially responsible firms suffer from agency problems. Managers engaging in CSR benefits themselves at the expense of shareholders. Okay, so they are misusing the shareholders' resources in in the useless things. That's their opinion. That's their standpoint. And uh, managers engaged in time-consuming CSR activities can lose focus on their core managerial responsibility. Their core managerial responsibility means uh, serving the principal and maximizing the worth of the the principal's wealth. Okay, so that's not the the manager's job. Okay, so Friedman even suggested that the business doing anything uh, other than making a profit is to harm the foundation of a free society. Uh, so I think this is a very extreme view of the shareholder theory. Okay, there may be some antagonism about this kind of attitude, I think. Okay, so this is the end of session 2.